Say I've had about 60 or more boxing matches.
Right.
And you only meet 3 genuine punchers throughout your career. And a kid I worked with by the name of Cleveland Williams. And they hit so hard that it vibrates your body. Even if you block it, just goes right to you.
Who would you consider to be the toughest fighter you've ever met in all the years you've been in the ring?
Well, I would say Cleveland Williams, the way he could hit and he punched hard. And before I fought him, I looked at his record and he had a string of knockouts. And then I said to myself, I said, oh, these nothing but setups. And after the first round, and I went back to my corner, I told my trainer, I said, they wasn't setups. I said, he knocked these guys out. So he said, you got to get in close on him. I said, either that, we got to get out of here. Because this guy is really something.
As is the case in all sports, the memories of athletes who do not rise to the top often fade until they are almost forgotten. But in the mid-20th century, the name Cleveland Williams was known and feared by every heavyweight in the game. Standing 6'3" with an 80-inch reach and wrecking balls attached at the end of his wrists, the man known as Big Cat was a one-man gang with a knockout wallop. Even the champions of his era, whose names still live on to this day as household words, had to learn the hard way that his power was not some fabricated myth, as was the case the night Sonny Liston was on the receiving end of a vicious onslaught. Not at all overwhelmed by his opponent's reputation, Cleveland got the jump on Liston and released a torrent of murderous punches.
Cleveland Williams, starting out very fast, trying to overpower Sonny Liston. Cleveland Williams has bloodied the nose of Sonny Liston and is bleeding pretty good.
It's a very rare sight to see a heavyweight anytime unload 5 consecutive left hooks with such speed, but Williams had raw talent to spare.
When Sonny Liston was one of the most feared fighters in the world, he went life and death with Cleveland Williams.
Cleveland Williams almost knocked Sonny Liston out of the ring. He broke a rib.
Can you recall anything that happened in that fight that would stand out in your memory?
Well, like the only thing I can remember is that there was a lot of doubt in people's mind, was I going to answer the bell for the second?
The night ultimately belonged to the future world champion, but the unstoppable Liston had finally bled and left the ring with a broken rib. Cleveland faced many setbacks in his career, but none more infamous than on the night of November 29, 1964, when driving on a lonesome road, Williams was pulled over by a Houston patrolman. A struggle ensued between the two men, resulting in Williams being shot at point-blank range in the gut by a .357 Magnum. Cleveland was rushed to the hospital with his right kidney having to be removed, along with over 10 feet of his small intestines. The gunshot had broken his hip bone, causing partial paralysis in his hip muscles and nerve damage in his left leg. He had been on the cusp of a world title shot, but his once muscle-bound physique had now withered away, with his weight plummeting to a skeletal 150 pounds. It would be over 2 years before he'd be back in the ring. But remarkably, Williams had built up his body once again, but it was a hollow shell that lacked the athleticism that he had once possessed.
We do look for a good fight, title defense coming up September. We're working on the fight with a top fighter now. He's making his comeback, Cleveland Williams. And a lot of the mistakes and things that I do and get away with the fellas that I have fought in the past, I couldn't do with him, because if he should hit me, he could hurt me, because he's got a hard punch. He broke Sonny Liston's jaw once, and if he should tag me, I could be in for trouble.
Assuming you win, Cleve, and we're all assuming that and pulling for you, what kind of champion are you going to be?
Well, lovable and treat everybody as though they were human, and try to be the kind of champion that the people want them to be.
Fighting on with a bullet still lodged inside his body, he tried futilely to draw upon speed that was no longer there.
I have to admit, I was a little fearful of his hitting power, because I could feel the wind from the misses.
Weaving clockwise, a hard left hook, the right to the ear. Williams down to the right. He's up at Cleveland. He'll take a mandatory 8 count. Boy, hits him with a left to the face. Williams doesn't quite know what to do. He's been hurt. Athlete takes a left and a right in his own corner, right, and the referee stops the fight. It's all over.
You know what interested me? What you said just a few moments ago. When you finally admitted that the Cleveland Williams you finished off was not perhaps the Cleveland Williams of 7 years ago.
That's right.
You knew that going into the fight.
Yeah, that's right. The world knew it. You knew it, didn't you?
That's true. I did.
One can only imagine what a man like Williams, with his exceptional structure for boxing and God-given power and speed, could have become had he from a young age been given the correct schooling in a boxing gym that is so readily provided to today's developing fighters. Williams once said, quote, "God wanted me to fight. I died 3 times on that operating table. If he didn't want me to fight, he'd have let me stay dead, because fighting's the only thing I know." The big cat lived an arduous life and had to pound out a living with his fists. While his legacy may forever remain in obscurity, let it be known that Cleveland Williams was a genuine fighting man.
Was there any particular fight when you first realized you could beat anybody?
Cleveland Williams, when I fought Cleveland Williams after, and he could punch real hard and fast. And after that fight, I felt that I could beat anybody.
He must have been real tough.
He
had bigger muscles than you.
Yes, he was all muscle. He even had muscles in his eyes.